My esteemed pleasure to welcome you all this evening. Couple housekeeping items. Number one, our work group meetings are recorded, and our work group meetings are open to the general public, and the public does have opportunity to get into our discussion this evening. I am Stacey Rogers, and I serve as Baltimore County Administrative Officer, and I am honored to also serve as the chair of our solid waste work group. On behalf of County Executive John Lubczewski, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to the county's first solid waste work group meeting. To our work group members, thank you for your commitment to serving and assisting us with this important endeavor. To the members of the public who are listening in this evening, we also welcome you and thank you for joining us. On October 16th, 2020, County Executive Lubczewski signed an executive order establishing the Solid Waste Work Group with the intent to find more sustainable practices that protect our county and our planet for generations to come. Mr. County Executive, we thank you for your leadership, your vision, and for establishing our work group to address this important charge. Today, the county's solid waste operations has a budget of $62 million utilized in the collection and management of over 880,000 tons of solid waste annually. The county operates 3 waste management facilities. It operates a single stream recycling center, which generates between $3 and $9 million in revenue annually, and we have 1 active landfill. I'd like to express my deep appreciation and give thanks to the more than 211 men and women who serve and work tirelessly on the county waste management team. I'd like to also recognize Mr. Michael Beechler, Bureau Chief of Solid Waste at the Department of Public Works, who has done a yeoman's job for the past 9 years in this role. Mr. Beechler has served in waste management for over 30 years, and we are grateful to him for his participation with the work group. Collectively, our work group is comprised of representatives from county government, the county, and the industry, each of whom I am proud to work alongside for this important endeavor. And you will hear from each of our members as we introduce ourselves shortly. Over the next 4 months, our work group will work to provide solutions that promote a sustainable future that is vibrant and equitable. We will also examine existing waste collection and disposal best practices globally and identify strategies that will enhance operations and reduce the amount of trash being produced in Baltimore County, including innovative recycling, and composting, and diversion of other waste. I would like to thank and acknowledge our technical expert team who will be assisting the work group over the course of our work. From the Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority, our facilitative group, we have Mr. Andrew Case, Ms. Kitty McRoy, and Mr. Chris Skaggs. From our technical consulting side, we are pleased to have representatives from Gershman, Brickner, and Bratton Incorporated, whom we will refer to as GBB throughout our time together. They will serve as our solid waste consultants. I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Harvey Gershman, Sam Labrant, Jennifer Porter, Steve Simmons, and Angela Page. Last but not least, I am very pleased this evening to acknowledge that we have representation from our county council, Mr. Izzy Patoka, council member for District 2. Mr. Patoka has extensive experience in strengthening communities. It is one of several great contributors to our work group. I would also like to acknowledge our acting director, Ms. DeAndrea Walker, who assumed that role on October 31st and has jumped in and done a yeoman's job already. Her permanent role is our deputy for transportation within the Department of Public Works. At this time, I would like to pause to give our council member, Mr. Patoka, the opportunity to bring greetings and welcome on behalf of the County Council. Councilmember Patoka, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rogers, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, my name is Izzy Patoka, and I represent the 2nd District of Baltimore County, and I bring you well wishes and greetings from the entire County Council. I want to thank Ms. Rogers and the County Executive Olszewski for moving forward on this initiative. Ms. Rogers, myself, Steve Lafferty, we've worked on initiatives like this in the past, and I think we've had success in the past working together, and I look forward to working not just with them, but with each of you moving forward. And the work that we've got in front of us, this is not sexy work. So if you're looking for sexy work, this is not the place. This is what I call the nuts and bolts of good government. And in Baltimore County, that's what we need to do well. We need to do those nuts and bolts of government. We need to do those things well. One of them is making sure that we dispose of trash properly. It's been something that I've focused on as a council member, doing those things well. And let me just say, before I go any further, I want to acknowledge two people who I would describe as community warriors from the beautiful 2nd District of Baltimore County, and that would be Eric Addison and also Lois Jacobs. And these people I know well, and they care about all of us doing these things that government ought to do and do them well. So I'm looking forward to not only working with my constituents in the 2nd District, but also each and every one of you that has a role in making sure that we're a 21st century county doing things well and improving the quality of life for all residents in the county. Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Thank you, Councilmember Patoka. We truly appreciate your participation and continuing to work together as we move forward. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to give the other members of the work group an opportunity to introduce themselves, and we would ask that you would give your name and your title or the organization that you represent. And we will start with our any remarks, particularly Ms. Walker. We will start with our acting director of the Department of Public Works, DeAndrea Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Madam Chair said, I am DeAndrea Walker. I'm the acting director for Public Works. It's an honor to be a part of this task force, and I look forward to the great things that I'm sure we'll be able to present to the county executive once we're complete. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Beechler?
Hi, all. I'm sitting here at my desk at work, and I apologize you can't see me because I have a solid waste computer that does not have a camera or a microphone. So maybe the first recommendation is that we get new computers, but I'm joking. Nice to meet you all, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beechler. We'll get to see a little bit more of Mr. Beechler when we do our next segment. Mr. Benjamin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm James Benjamin. I'm the county attorney for Baltimore County. Yesterday, I celebrated my one-year anniversary with the county. It's been a wonderful ride so far. Very happy to be a part of this group and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I will say that Mr. Benjamin volunteered to participate. Thank you so much. Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you, Madam Mayo. I'm Steve Lafferty. I'm the county's Chief Sustainability Officer working in the County Executive's Office.
Mr. Blumen.
Thank you. Seth Blumen, Baltimore County Energy and Sustainability Coordinator for the Executive Office.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter.
Hi, all. Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Matt Carpenter. I'm the Chief of Budget and Administration from the Office of Budget and Finance. Hope to serve you all well.
Mr. Adams.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ed Adams. I had a career of 31 years working through Baltimore County, coming up through engineering, and the last 16 years as Director of Public Works. The last 4.5 years, I've been Senior Vice President at JMC Consultant out in Hunt Valley. And I'm looking forward to working with this group of people and coming up with some solutions for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Ms. Jacobs. Ms. Jacobs.
All of the composting and public works issues are very important to us.
All right. Ms. Bixby?
Good evening, Sarah Bixby. I am Deputy Executive Director for SWANA, which is the Solid Waste Association of North America. 30-year career in solid waste as a public sector director, as a consultant, and the last several years with SWANA. Thank you all very much for the invitation to participate.
We're so happy you were able to make time to be a part of the work group, Ms. Bixby. Did Mr. Miller make it on? Chaz Miller? Chaz? Yes. Mr. Miller? I think you're still muted, Mr. Miller.
The name is Chaz Miller. I'm representing the Maryland Recycling Network. I've been involved in recycling and solid waste since starting at EPA in 1976. Retired from full-time work about 3 years ago.
Thank you so much. We're so pleased that you could join us. Did Mr. Robinson make it on? Shane Robinson. Okay. Mr. Good? Willie Good?
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. I'm Willie Good, CEO and President of Good Companies. We currently operate in 5 different states, 2 transfer stations, processing center, 250 collection routes on the truck every day. Collection routes daily out of the 5 different states we operate. I've been on a trash truck since the age of 13, so I'm celebrating 40 years being in the solid waste industry.
Thank you, Mr. Good, and welcome. Ms. Grace.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Michelle Grace, and I am owner of Shell Sanitation. I'm a Baltimore County trash hauler. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Grace. We're so glad you could join us. Mr. Singleton.
Yes, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Robert Singleton. I'm one of the owners of Cocky's Enterprises. We're a trash hauler in Baltimore County, and look forward to participating.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hill?
Hi, yes, Kara Hill. I'm with Whiting Turner, but actually in this capacity, I'm still a Baltimore County resident, and interested in seeing what the county has to offer in terms of growing efficiency in recycling and solid waste management.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. And Ms. Hill, and Mr. Addison, who's coming up. They represent our community representatives. Mr. Addison?
Good evening. My name is Eric Addison. I am in organizational communications. I have my own editorial services company, and I'm also a part-time custodian for our neighborhood, which is Colonial Village in Pikesville, near the city line. I said that jokingly. Volunteer custodian doing environmental patrol team, neighborhood picking up trash. That's what Izzy was referring to earlier. And, I'm just very much concerned about environmental matters and hope to be able to help the group come up with solutions for our future. I think it's going to be very important for our community and for the region.
Thank you so much, Mr. Addison, and we're very pleased that you could join us. Now, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to introduce yourselves. Over the next 4 months, I'm sure we'll get to know each other much better as we engage in our work. Typically, in projects like this, we would take a physical tour, but given the pandemic, we are unable to do so. So what the project team came up with is a brief clip that will give you an idea of our operations here in Baltimore County. And we're pleased that Mr. Beechler is the narrator for us. He's the host of our video. So, Ms. Peoples, if you will show the video for us now. Keeping our fingers crossed that technology will be our friend. Veditra, are we good? Oh, there we go. Is everything okay, Savitra?
Sorry, just a technical difficulty.
Well, if we're having difficulty, what we can do is, colleagues, we can send the link out to you in an email that you can view. It's only a few more minutes. This total time is 4.4 minutes and 45 seconds, so we're about halfway through. While Savitra's working on that, why don't we continue? Technology can be our best friend or our worst enemy. Now I would like to, well, first of all, we want to thank Mr. Beechler for his facilitation and participation in the video. And as we said, in better times, we would have been able to go out to the facilities, but we're not able to do that. We will forward the link to you, and you'll be able to watch the full video, unless the Vitra at some point can bring it up to finish those last 2 minutes. But now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Ms. Jennifer Porter from GBB. Jennifer serves as our project manager, and I would just like to say many, many thanks to Jennifer and the team, the authority as well as GBB colleagues. They have done an incredible job thus far getting us prepared, and I'm sure you will be very pleased with the information they have prepared. So we'll turn the meeting over to Ms. Porter.
Great. Thank you so much, Stacy. Welcome everybody from the GBB team, from us to this work group. We're so excited to be here, and we have had a very quick start on this project. As noted, we have been on the project since mid-October, though we've done some work with the county in the past. So very excited to be here. And I just got I got my sharing capabilities. I'm going to bring up the agenda here that you can see. If we can come back to that number 2 with the tour, we will. But we're going to move into our third agenda item, which is the background memo. And just a brief introduction on myself. As heading the GBB team, I've been with GBB for 4 years. I'm a part owner in the company now, and I am also originally from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I worked for a number of years on the West Coast in Portland, Oregon, in their franchise system, in the transition from an open market to a franchise residential system. And I'm just thrilled to be here and leading the team. I will say, you see on the call today from GBB, we have Harvey Gershman, our founder, owner, associate. We have Sam Lybrand, both of whom will be presenting the topic tonight, our PowerPoint agenda item number 4. And we have President Steve Simmons and Paige Davis, who's a consultant with us. And she's going to be helping to monitor questions that we see coming up. And you can enter questions into the chat as we go along here, or raise your hand, and we will try to take questions. We're also going to pause for questions and make some pauses so we can, because it's hard for us all to see each other on here, I know, and especially when we're sharing screens. So if anybody is familiar with the chat function, please do send a chat to everyone or to the panelists. And if you aren't familiar, please raise your hand so we can take a pause. And if all else fails, you can unmute and speak. We really want to have this be interactive. I could imagine if we were all together, we would be having our sticky notes out and having a group activity today. But since we're in the virtual space, we are going to really get a lot of use, I think, out of our time together and really advance the project. As you all know, This is the first of 8 meetings, and we have a topic to cover at every meeting. So the topic for tonight is going to be the PowerPoint coming up as agenda item number 4. But for number 3, I wanted to cover the some of the background memo. Now, this was sent in PDF this week. As you know, it's quite an extensive document. I would say it's the folks you see on the team here from GBB and the authority working in concert on this, and the county representatives. There's also a number of other subject matter experts from GBB team that have been on this project, including subconsultant EA, landfill consulting firm. So with that, I'm going to share the view. If you have the document either printed or in copy, you can look at this. This is the table of contents. I'm not going to go through every page, but the copy you have has a draft watermark on it, but we felt that it might be more visible to see without the draft watermark. But I just wanted you to know the same version that you have. We are looking for comments and questions on this version to issue final next month. So I know it's a lot to go through, but I wanted to just look at the introduction section, which if you do have a copy or are a hard copy or electronic, it's on what was page 9 on your document. So that's the page you can see here. Just to say that we have started this assignment to support the work group to look at the bullet points you can see here for the county system. So the collection, all our compensation, drop-off, the MRF facility, the leaf and yard waste site. We looked at programs and policies, major contracts, the current facilities, and goals and programs. So the rest of the video, which you will get to see, Mike does a great job, and the team are sort of doing a virtual look at things to kind of really bring it to life. I would say that the purpose of this memo is to serve as a backdrop for the work group moving forward and to give a baseline of the best practices for possible incorporation into the tactical plan. So our work together is the development. This background memo is a baseline, and our work together will be the development of another document that is the tactical 5-year plan. So again, we're not going to go through every piece of this, but I wanted to move to what is then on your page 10. There's a map of the county with population density and the URDL, the urban services demarcation line, and a nice little bullet list, most of which Mike was also reiterating on the video, just as backdrop that, there are 334,000 households being provided services with biweekly yard waste collection for part of that based on the calendar and also location in the county. There's also collection service for multifamily and large apartment buildings, as well as county and religious properties. And we did get to see in the video about the Eastern Sanitary Landfill, which includes not just the landfill, but transfer station, the yard materials processing and mulching, and also a drop-off. And the additional sections to come in the video cover the Western Acceptance Facility, the Central Acceptance Facility, and the citizen, both the citizen and the transfer station drop-off. So the authority, the Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority, who's our partner in facilitating this contract with the county, is integral in this, and we have sections in the report covering also the waste energy facility Bresco, and looking at the contracts currently in place for services. And again, we're going to do a deeper dive tonight into residential collection. I would say I'm going to pause there just because I can't see everybody, and just to say, has anything come up as a question before I keep going? Okay, not seeing anything.
Jennifer, I will say that Savitra did notify me that if we save a few minutes at the end of the session, she has been able to fix the glitch, and we should be able to see the end of that video.
Do you want to do that now when we're covering the overview, or do you want to wait till the end?
Let me ask the group, what is your preference? Would you like to go back to the final part, the final 2 minutes of the video?
I just as soon see the rest right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me. Well, she says she's not quite ready.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought that she was ready to go.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so we can come back to that, and that will give us a nice sort of recap on the overall system. If there are no active questions, I wanted to, first of all, see if there's any questions in any section that anybody wanted to go to in particular. But if there are not, which I'm not seeing anything in the chat or otherwise, I'm going to move. Oh, Stacey?
I have one question. Is it possible for you to go to full screen on your projection?
Yeah.
To your desktop view, because that will make it. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing because you have your other piece in the background.
Yeah, because I have other. I have all the other. The things there. I mean, I can zoom in though.
Okay. Is everyone able to see? Is it large enough? I know maybe it's just my eyes, but okay. If everyone's able to see as is, that's fine.
Okay. And I'm going to scroll down to the section 8. So again, the report covers all aspects of the county system, including facilities, programs, policies, and goals, which are the baseline for this group's tactical plan work. And we didn't, I know it's a lot of information, and this group, I will acknowledge, is moving very quickly with nearly every 2-week meetings, except some breaks with the holiday. But over the next, for our 8 meetings, happen rapidly. So I just appreciate everybody's participation and moving with us through this, so we have a real everybody's fingerprint on this process. So thank you. Yes, Stacey?
I'd also say all of the documents will be posted on our page, on the work group page. This particular document will be posted after our next meeting, and we give feedback and comment. But we wanted you all to have an opportunity to review. And I do know that we got a question early on, which we apologize. No, we didn't expect that everybody would read and absorb it for tonight. But it will give you the backdrop of the full extent of our work. And, the colleagues, GVB colleagues, have, came in and did their assessment and put this document together for us as a starting point going forward.
Yeah.
So you can always use it as a reference as we go through our meetings.
Right, and go back in the sections that we're going to be breaking out a lot of the sections into the PowerPoint and guest speakers that will be coming ahead. So I moved ahead to what on your printout or your version is page 98, which is the section 8 called System Modifications Analysis. This is the point that the background memo closes. It's table 41. And we looked at the solid waste management plan, which is the current solid waste management plan for the county with its recommendations, along with the GBB team's recommendations to look at potential or, system modifications based on our look. Now, to kind of lay the framework for where we're going as a group, we are building a tactical plan that will look at scenarios of possible modifications with what our goal is to present a menu of options at different price points and impact points in terms of diversion and recycling that will look at a grouping of these. We're not going to necessarily model everyone individually, but we have them broken up on here, and we'll be looking to get feedback from this group about particular items that you care about and really want to see carried forward in the scenarios that we will next be developing for this group and with this group in the tactical plan. So you can see in this table, they're broken up and marked out from the source over here on the right side, which is from GBB or the Solid Waste Management Plan. And we have the sections broken out by waste minimization, recycling, the waste energy facility, landfilling, and a group of other recommendations. These came from the Solid Waste Management Plan. And then we added, the GBB team added some additional kind of groupings around goal setting, regulations and programs, financing and contracts, which we will certainly be covering tonight also in the PowerPoint, and collection as its own category, also covered this evening in more detail. And then our last section is on the transfer station drop-off centers. So, and I know the memo is being quite long. I wanted to kind of give you this roadmap of understanding. It really can be read by section based on something you wanted to look up, and then really focusing your attention to this end point, which is the table 41, kind of looking at where both the Solid Waste Management Plan ended and our team ended to date with looking at recommendations. And I would say we can initiate some conversation here now about topics that anyone on the committee, on the work group would like to bring up. But I would also say we will be continued. This is not an endpoint conversation. We're going to be working through this together in terms of what scenarios you want to see modeled for the county in particular, and how we can really be bringing in the next 2 months, essentially, you more information about what are the financial and diversion impacts from these different recommendations. So with that, I'm going to pause for a moment and just stop sharing so we can see each other again more easily, because I think with the sharing you can't easily see folks. Does anybody have any comments or questions right now? I'm not seeing any waving hands, and there's nothing in the chat, right, Stacey, that I can't see?
No, I don't have any comments in the chat at this point, Jennifer.
Okay, great. And
want to speak? Excuse me. How does this relate to the existing 10-year plan?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ms. Jacobs. We basically, that table that I was just sharing, the table 41, we included every recommendation that the Solid Waste Management Plan ended with, and either enhanced that or brought in some addition. So that's what you see on that table 41, where you can see where it came from, either the Solid Waste Management Plan and our team, because we really wanted to we're not starting from scratch here. There's been a lot of good work going on and thought and planning. So we are kind of picking that up and using that as a framework for the recommendations.
Right. So if you compare that table 41 to the 10-year plan, you'll see the various recommendations, and that's what we thought was a good starting point to have discussions. And then, of course, GBB brought out some other things. Those are the things that currently exist, or the county's position on things. So that's we thought was the most appropriate place, starting place. Ms. Jacobs, you're on.
And that, when we're all finished with the work of this group, how will that then integrate or work or guide the county vis-a-vis the 10-year plan? I'm just trying to get that straight.
Yeah, it does not, so the 10-year plan, again, we're building from that framework, and what this is a tactical, more how to, in what timeline, and what task, what recommendation comes first. So we're really taking that and just giving a 5-year plan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
If I may, Stacy, if I may, Steve Lafferty, lots to digest there, Ms. Porter, so I don't have specific comments, but will there also be a set of priorities? Do you anticipate a set of, because there are a lot of items that are listed, and I guess in order to have a viable tactical plan, as you were talking about, you would be laying out things for year 1, 2, 3, 4, based upon the outcome of the overall work. Is that the thought? Is that part of the thinking?
Yes, exactly. I'm going to just flip back to sharing. You're exactly on the point that I have here, Mr. Lafferty, about initial recommendation prioritization for the tactical plan scenarios. So the point that, and I recognize, I think the entire team recognizes this is a lot of uptake all very quickly for everybody on this group, despite the fact that many people have deep knowledge in this. We do have varying perspectives, the strength that we bring. So our team is going to bring back to you a process for getting each person on this group's prioritization, so we can kind of condense information and get it back to you. To say this is what because if we had a different 18 people on here, we could wind up with a different tactical plan, right? Part of this is not only your input, but I'm the next I'll give you an update later on the public survey piece that we're putting together. Mm-hmm. So your work here combined with the public input on potential changes, that is, this is not a set in stone what this tactical plan is going to look like. We're bringing forth from the solid waste management plan and our team, but it's definitely creation with this group, with the work group, and with the public.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to build on that a little bit. Steve, your point is you're right on point with what we need to do. The tactical plan will also help guide us with respect to resources and how we stage things. Just like our enterprise strategic plan, there are certain pieces in the strategic plan that relate to the solid waste, sustainability, your area. And now what we're trying to do is get actionable items through the recommendations based on looking at the strategic plan that exists, based on assessment and pieces that GBB has pulled out, and based on our dialogue and ultimately input from the community survey. We're going to talk about that this evening, and that will be the topic of our December 3rd meeting, what that will look like. Ultimately, what we're trying to do, particularly for the FY22 budget, is to identify and prioritize in our recommendations those things that we believe the county should undertake during FY22, and so on and so forth. That 5-year kind of prioritized strategies, because the CE is looking for recommendations on what we recommend take place and what we execute on this coming fiscal year. That's sort of why we have, expedited process, because we do want to come out with some actionable items that will go into the budget this coming fiscal year. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other hands raised or comments?
I don't see anything in the chat. Okay.
Sarah with her hand up.
Has her hand up.
Yeah, can we maybe look at the agenda? Can we take a second and look at that, because it would be helpful for me. I definitely have in the weeds kind of questions, but I don't necessarily want to go in the weeds if we're going to address topics on different days or something like that.
Yeah. Can you see this now, Kara? So the this has the schedule ahead for the special topic for each meeting, which, we're getting into the one for tonight. We haven't begun that yet. So we will start that next. But these are the topics.
Yeah, I was just unclear when I was reading that, are we getting, there's work group discussion on each of these at those times? I wasn't sure how much of that was like presentation time, or because aren't different people talking at different times, so I wasn't sure how much time we're being allowed to the big picture and what our priorities are, and how much of that is kind of already baked into the program, and we're looking at various pieces. We're not inventing new priorities. We're looking at what's kind of set in this background memo, and then working different pieces, right?
Right. And what I was saying there too to Steve was this: we do want this group, we do want to initiate an exercise with this group related to your prioritization of where the memo ends, so that we can get your feedback. And because we're not all together in a room and not going to be, we want to be able to say, kind of, here's a polling of the group in terms of what we are hearing for the scenarios that you want us to, the GBB team, to go ahead and give you pricing and impact ranges for. So I don't know if that helps to clarify that. Will be coming in the December meetings. As now, what you see listed here, these are the topics that were preset, and we are inviting, we have 3 meetings with which you're going to have additional outside speakers coming in on the different topics, and we're still finalizing some of that, who the invited speakers will be. So there's a lot of room for your input on, you have something in particular.
Let me build on that as well, Kara, and then Sarah Bixby has a comment, which, Sarah, I think this might relate to your comment, which I'll read in a second. This is not preset. We want to be clear. This is a starting point. There is room for other recommendations. There's room for how this group, as well as with the citizen input, feels about certain aspects. But we had to start at a specific point as in terms of the as is. What exists in our 10-year plan now, and what are the things that we need to think about, and then try to begin to frame them out with fiscal consideration, and then a timing consideration, which goes back to the prioritization. But Sarah's comment is selection criteria already defined or to be defined. I'm not fully tracking with that. Sarah, could you unmute and speak to what you mean with respect to selection criteria? Selection criteria in terms of recommendation or subtropical areas. If you can speak a little bit more to selection criteria.
Sure.
What's your preferred there?
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. So, Jennifer, I hear you saying that, we'll reach a point where we go through and pick from the items in that table. But I know that my priorities and my input living in Montgomery County and working in solid waste and not having to pay fees or receive service in Baltimore County may be very different than somebody that lives in Baltimore County that's a neighbor to a facility. And so I'm wondering if the criteria that we would use to analyze and to review some of these items have already been identified by people within the county, or if that's something that we work through as a group, right? Like, is price more important than waste diversion? And is environmental sustainability more important or less important than efficiency? I mean, there are certain things like that I just want to know how important each is in our review of the systems that we're going to be reviewing.
Mm-hmm. That is definitely a very timely kind of point and observation that you will see also that our team has made to date in the background memo to say, in terms of that new category that I was mentioning around goal setting, and, is there a desire, and we've initiated some of these conversations too with Mr. Lafferty and the sustainability thinking in the county, is there a desire for a numeric goal? So what does that goal look like? We can look at some of the examples of Montgomery County and Baltimore City plans and the differences there. And, what is the desire of this, the county executive and the executive order initiating this. And, Stacey, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We don't have it's not a set in stone numeric goal. I think it's part of this process that we're in.
Thank you.
Sure, but that point is well taken. But I think as we go along, we need to look at that. I do know that from the county executive perspective, and then if you look at the county's transition plan and the strategic plan, you'll see some definitive things about what we're the end desire. If you start at the end and work your way back, are we looking at innovative efforts? Are we operating right now in a way that is using industry best practices or standards and innovation? Are we able to begin to move toward, better diversion strategies? What is it that we in Baltimore County realistically can do in terms of our recycling endeavors? Because right now, how does that play out in the scheme of things in terms of industry best practices? So that's a part of it. That's why I shared with the team early on, the recommendations that are in the 5-year plan were written by a group of people at that point in time. Our tactical plan, I think, is twofold. It looks at what the team envisioned in that 10-year plan to see what pieces are still viable, that, yes, this is viable. This is what we should do. But what's missing? What is the innovative thing that's out there now that may not have even existed when the initial 10-year plan was developed and executed from a standpoint of a document? That's what the goal is, and that's why I think when Kara asked about, is it just everything, what's here is where we're going? No, this is a time for us to think innovatively, what would work, what's out there that would work, help us to address our solid waste better.
Mm-hmm. And I would just add process-wise for this group, and we're going to cover next steps, as we move through this meeting. But we are looking for your questions at this point on the background memo, questions that you have, and we will, in the December meetings with you, be continuing this prioritization discussion. And so between now, the initial feedback that we're getting now during this meeting and anything that comes after, we're going to be incorporating into that the background piece, and then also taking your comments again. And we're not in the room together to do this, so we are going to be doing some of it in between the meetings with online tools to get your prioritization and get your ideas out now early on.
So in other words, we definitely don't have all the answers. That's what we brought all the experts together.
Yeah.
To get everybody's opinion, if you will, on the topics that exist.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kara Hill has a question.
Yeah, I don't want to sidetrack if we're not asking just any question at hand. So stop me, and I can start. I probably am going to just send you an email after this with probably some smaller comments. But just looking at your plan quickly so far, on page 13, you had a nice visual of where does all the recycling go, and I'm curious in terms of waste diversion and if we're going to maximize recycling, and where does it go? Is there a market for it? Are we sending it to China? I think that's just kind of a current event that is like where it's like, fine, we get it out of the county, but where does it go? I'm seeing that we're taking a lot in from Harford County. I'm assuming there's like a financial scheme to taking it in from Harford and selling it out on the solid waste side. It kind of looked like a 1-for-1 on the diagram, just the solid waste version of this diagram.
Okay.
But this one, the 45802 that goes out, like, I think just in a big picture in addressing the county's goals of transparency, like whatever we decide, I just, in my mind, would like to really know where we're sending it and why, and if it's good money to send it out, but shipping, like what's all the trucking costs and the fuel, like I feel like those are all things that I would like to consider as we kind of go forward. And switching topics with the video that Mike was doing, and with that landfill, that obviously I'm clearly just uninformed of some of this, but I feel like maybe everybody else on the call is just better. But I don't know, our first call, so who knows what everybody knows. But the landfill, and how there's like one that's full and one that we're working on, and one's like, and I see in your charts that you've got like a few projected values for the lifetime of that. Is there, maybe I just haven't found it yet, is there a next site, and when that's full, we're just shipping everything out? Like what's the end goal for when that one's full? And is our goal to really drastically drive up recycling to drive down the landfill use? And monetary impact on the ability to do that is, like, I feel like we need a cost benefit on building another landfill versus forcing stuff to be recycled.
And that is perfectly on point. If anybody else wants to chime in, but I'll just say that what you're describing was saying, like, you need to understand, we need to, as a group, to understand what are the cost implications for different scenario options. That is exactly what we are moving into with the tactical plan, is to bring from the long list of recommendations down into groupings of scenarios that we can model for you and showing to Stacey has often called it a menu of options at different price points. If we wanted to do, change the hauling and collection system, what are the different ways we could do that? What's the cost impact? What's the diversion impact, the environmental impact? That's what we're endeavoring to do. And that is what the prioritization and the feedback from you all in the work group about what do you want to see modeled, because we can't model a menu of price points for every single recommendation. It would just be not time efficient. We need to winnow it down and group them. So I think that's exactly the point that we're heading to. And
I have 2 points, Jennifer, and one, Sarah, to your point. One of the topical areas is diversion. Okay, so what are the current diversion strategies out there that would ultimately, not just from the standpoint of what we recycle now, reduce trash that goes into the landfill, period, and what impact that will have on the life of the current landfill. The second thing is disposal. What other options are out there besides landfilling? So these are the things that we have to look at, and then we have to overlay, as Jennifer calls it, price point. I call it, how much does it cost? And can we afford it? What can the county afford? Looking at innovation, looking at implications around other ways of diverting trash that's going into the landfills. And there are a lot of, models out there. And then looking at disposal options, because right now we landfill and we ship out some trash that basically we have to based on the current landfill. But what else is out there in the industry from a standpoint of innovation? Those are the kinds of things we're trying to whittle down to. Because building another landfill, how much does that cost? Going upward in the landfill, how much does that cost? Or is there another way to dispose of trash altogether besides landfilling? And then ultimately, undergirding all of this is about sustainability in our efforts and how they fit into the work that Steve does as well. How does all of that fit together? Those are literally the kinds of things we're going to have to address during the next 4 months. But being good stewards of our time today, I would suggest that we do at least get into the 2 topical areas, because we have about 50 minutes left, and one of the presentations is the PowerPoint is at least 45 minutes. So I'd like to. And do you want to go right to the PowerPoint? Do you want Savitra to share now or at the end? Well, let me ask the group their desire. First of all, Savitra, are we ready? No, she said no. We're probably going to have to send it out. She's having technical difficulties. Okay. I suggest that the time that is remaining that we go forward, and then under next steps, colleagues, you will find that there'll be opportunities for you to send in questions and comments that will, further form and refine the document, the briefing document, but it can also influence our topical discussions. And now, the prioritization piece that GBB colleagues have built into this process for us. But we're trying to get all of the quote unquote menu or array of topics and menus for us to consider from each of those topics. Exactly. Okay. Thank you. Anybody, I think for the sake of time and schedule here, we're going to move to the PowerPoint then. And I'm going to start to share this from, just see. We're going to start this PowerPoint. Okay. And everybody can see this. Okay. All right.
So we are on our first focus area for our 8 meetings, and the first topic is residential collection and hauler compensations. And again, Jennifer Porter, gave my introduction. I wanted to really warmly welcome, and they will each share in this presentation this evening, Harvey Gershman, founder, owner, associate with GBB, and Sam Lybrand, special principal associate with GBB, who has a lot of operation and background experience. And Harvey, more than 4 decades and experience, and I know knows a lot of folks already on this call. So welcome to Harvey and Sam, and you'll hear from them in a moment. We're going to cover these topics in the agenda. We're going to go through the background on the topic, GBB's recommendations, additional changes, a possible tactical approach, next steps, and then just kind of outline again the upcoming meetings. Okay, so I'm going to turn it to Harvey.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jennifer. So Baltimore County, population of close to 1 million. The arrangements for residential collection, which is the focus of this discussion, very unique. They were set up a long time ago, back in the 1950s, through a county code. I think of it as a feudal system, granting verbal contracts to over 50 waste haulers, many of which were families. Over the years, the system's evolved to what it is today. 30 years ago, I guess it was a twice a week, everything was collected. You'd put out stuff twice a week and the haulers would come by and pick it up. That was changed when recycling came on in Maryland. One of the trash collections got changed to every other week for the 2 different kinds of recyclables. 1 week would be containers. The next week would be paper. And we were involved in helping make that change years ago. Now, there's once a week trash collection and once a week single stream recyclables collection and yard waste done seasonally. There are some 22,000 residents that do get twice a week trash collection. They're in an area that the county wants to focus on ratification, and that's why it's done that way. The number of route areas has shrunk a bit to the now 55. I guess it's down even to 50, 51 or so different route areas served by 36 or 7 different haulers. Across the United States, GBB knows of no other county or local government this size, smaller or larger, that has a setup like this for residential services. Portland, Oregon, where Jennifer came from, used to have a system like this, but they went through a consolidation, changing it to franchises and contracts. That was about 10 years ago, Jennifer, something like that. This is very, very unique. It's a risky system. Most haulers don't have backup equipment. The county has a handful of vehicles that they can rent if they're needed to help them. Residential service is manually picked up. There's no tippers, no automation on the residential side. There's some on the multifamily and commercial side, but not on the residential side. The equipment's generally older than you would find in a community where they either provide the service or contract haulers and serving larger areas in routes provide the services. Routes have to be transferred if a hauler retires or decides to stop providing the services. There have been no contracts over the decades and few financial adjustments. It's not a fair system. It's not efficient, although the delivery of services does happen, very consistently with very few complaints over the 43 billion collections per year and the 32 million that's spent currently. Next slide. The residents very well informed as to when to put what out. These are 2 schedule examples that residents received. that show them what day to put their recyclables out, the R, or their trash out, the T. And during the season, when yard waste is set out, there's a Y. And as you can see, residents during the yard waste season have to set out materials 3 days per week. That's an inconvenience for residents. Next slide. Here's a picture of some trash set outs, curbside or alley side. Residents use their own containers on the day on the calendar. Overflow goes in bags or just set next to the trash cans. Bulky waste collection is not provided, although unofficially for tips, haulers are known to lift and load bulky materials into their packer trucks. Next slide. One problem observed is that haulers leave trash cans in the street and not back within the curb. Next slide. Now that the county has single stream recycling, everything is set out on the recycling day. Again, the resident provides the carts. And as these images show, some residents have purchased their own blue recycling carts, as well as using other containers, as well as having overflow set outs, especially for all the corrugated containers we're all getting from the home deliveries from Amazon, Walmart, and others. This is all collected manually, as mentioned before. Next set out. Next slide. And set outs for yard waste. The yard waste collection is seasonal and unlimited every other week. So residents have to make sure they only put it out, or they know it'll be collected every other week. The hauler does not have to collect everything set out, but they generally do to avoid complaints. You see in the picture a large number of brown bags on the top, and on the bottom left, a smaller number of plastic bags commonly used throughout the county. There is a picture of a private landscaper that has a mulching machine on the back of his pickup truck that's providing service to a home. So the residents can use the plastic bags, the paper bags. They can tie bundles of brush together for pickup. The residents know when to use and what to do based on the educational materials the county provides them. Private landscapers are not supposed to leave yard waste at the curb, but sometimes they do. They do leave it behind, and it's collected by the haulers. Next slide. Here's a list of some deficiencies that we've observed, and the county has shared with us as well. The trucks for the haulers are generally old. There's little technology on these trucks, neither hardware nor software. Services are delivered on 2 or 3 different collection days. Plastic bags are used for yard waste, which cause some issues with the compost that's made from the collected yard waste. There's too many small routes and too many haulers, resulting in an inefficient system. Consolidation is needed to lower the risk of delivery interruptions and continuity of service. The sides of the trucks aren't being used for messaging a county reduce, reuse, recycling ethic the public needs to see constantly. The Bureau is having a hard time with watching all these haulers with the resources they currently have. Haulers don't have contracts to go to the bank with to finance better equipment. This is a big problem for them. Many of the haulers are family businesses without succession plans. As a result, the hauler nearby may be given or needs to be given the opportunity to take out an additional route area that a retired hauler has left behind. That's not an efficient way to consolidate services. Next slide. Okay.
And Harvey, I know that Councilmember Patoka had some questions. He had mentioned in the chat a little earlier. I told him that we were going to pause midstream of presentation. So Councilmember Patoka, I don't know if you saw my response, but here is an opportunity to ask questions, and if we need to go back to some of the slides, we can.
I did, and thank you, Ms. Rogers. Harvey, that was a good presentation. Just had a quick question. When there is a modification from, a hauler, let's say a family-run business decides they don't want to proceed anymore, and there's a modification necessary to cover that route, or any of the other modifications that you described, like the number of haulers and the area that each of the haulers cover. What are the mechanics of that adjustment? Is it the Director of Public Works that makes that agreement? Is it the administrative officer that makes that agreement? Or is it the head of solid waste that makes that agreement? How does that adjustment occur?
I'd like to defer to Mike Beechler to answer that.
Mike can talk to you about that, Councilmember Patoka. Sometimes it's an emergency situation.
Yeah, he gets the first call, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, very good. And if it's a feudal system, am I now a lord, Harvey?
You are Lord Beechler.
No, I'm not. I'm just good old Mike. Okay, a very excellent question. We actually last 2 weeks ago had a death in our hauler system that created hold on.
Emergency.
Yeah, that created an emergency situation. What we normally do is we go and we look at all the adjacent haulers to that route that is now vacant. And we find out what their interest is. It's been getting harder. Sometimes we have a lot that are interested, sometimes we don't. And basically what we also try to do is grow the smaller haulers to where they have about 10,000 units, which we feel are sustainable. We also look at, is it a minority route, and is there any minority haulers that are located and that can send it that way, such as we've helped Ms. Grace out. Just recently with that situation we had, she picked up some units from that. Fortunately, to date, we've never been stuck without a hauler that was interested. Now, when that happens in the Bureau, we do the communicating with the haulers. That then goes to the director who then we present a memo that goes to the county administrative officer. It's reviewed by all of them for final approval. We answer their questions, and then when everything is good, we pass that route to those haulers that were willing to take it over.
And Councilmember Patoka, in my almost 2 years, 1.5, almost 2 years experience, the manner in which it was done, I think that it was equitable for the system that we have. But in a lot of instances, we have emergent situations where we have to figure out how that trash is going to be picked up, because the county may be able to pick it up. And often that happens. The county will step in. Our county staff will step in with the equipment that we have to try to get that picked up. But the system that we have is who is the closest and has the capacity. That's basically how it's been done. And really, Mr. Gershman's comment is about the volatility, because you could have haulers like the situation we had, unfortunate situation where a hauler passed away and there was no one to pick up that business and move forward. So we had to look for other alternatives. The county initially stepped in until we could negotiate with the other haulers in that area who were available.
I'd like to add one more thing for the councilman too. In the county code under 13.4.210, it is legislated in the county code that the director of public works has the legal authority and ability to do all of this too. So it is in a legal code in the county code.
Right.
Gotcha. And I understand this is one of those, as I described earlier, nuts and bolts of government that have to be taken care of right away.
Right.
And can't drag on until we've sorted out.
It's very good the county has those 4 trucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Because then it becomes a public health issue, you know, from the human services side. We can't pick that trash up until we can figure out a better overall enterprise-wide system. We have to work within the means that we have, and thank goodness we have been able to hold it together. But it is very, very volatile, as Mr. Gershman indicated, and concerning. Mr. Good had a question, and I think this is a good one. What guidelines make a route, and is the 57 routes all residential or commercial? And then there's, let me see, there was another part that you had, Mr. Good. This was about when they change from one route to another. I can say that no, the haulers do not use the name of the entity that retired. They take the portion of the routes on within their route. But, but the chat part, I don't, Mr. Beechler, the part about the routes, residential versus commercial, I'll defer to you.
Yeah, so hold on. It's my old computer here. All of the routes are residential routes in the county. Most all of the routes go back one way or the other to when they were originally made in 1949, 71 years ago. As we piece them off, we kind of changed the map a little bit. I think when I first started, there was 70-some routes. We're down to 51 now. And our only legislative mandate and budget in Baltimore County is for residential trash collection.
I think part of the question is the fact that the multifamily are collected, which is residential, and in other jurisdictions, some of the kinds of multifamily that are collected in Baltimore County are called commercial. And the schools, the religious locations, and the county buildings may also be in a commercial collection. So, but here they're included as part of the residential services and the route services that are provided by, quote, the residential hauler in that area.
Correct.
Does that clarify it for you?
Well,
Mr. Good, does that give you your response?
It does, and it does. Let me go to my first question. My first question says 37 different haulers. I do a lot of areas. I haven't seen 37 different trash trucks in Baltimore County. Is it actually 37?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's a list.
It is.
Okay. All right. That's number one. And then the 51 route, the routes, and I'm thinking
those are areas. Those are route areas, not routes within the area. So probably better stated as areas than routes. We'll make that distinction.
So do the same hauler pick up the multifamily and the churches and other businesses in that route?
Not businesses, but county facilities that are included, and the religious locations, and those multifamilies. Yes, and they have different vehicles that they use. Tonight we're focusing just on the residential portion, more the single family, the town, the row houses, those facilities, those kind of locations where rear end packers are used.
One more question then. Do the hauler determine the size of if you got an area of 10,000 houses, do the hauler make the decision they pick up 800 houses a day or 300 houses, or do the county tell them how many houses to pick up?
The county does.
By truck?
However they want to do it.
Well, are they the county giving them the idea, you're giving them the area to pick up, you're not telling them how many trucks they need.
That is correct.
All right, good. Thank you.
Okay. So I have the time at 6:28. And I know we have one other part of the presentation. So what I would kindly ask if there are other questions about what Mr. Gershman has presented so far, if you could hold them and then we can take them. If you put them in chat, we are able to capture all chat comments as a document. Right, Savitra? Yes, so we will be, you could do it there, or at the end, we're going to give you an email address for questions. Each meeting, we will have that opportunity, but if there are things or thoughts that you have, please, those of you who feel comfortable want to put them in the chat, and then Savitra will be able to capture everything, and we can give that to the team, GBB.
Okay. I'm just I saw, since we're at the break point, we're going to move to the next part. I got a note from Savitra saying it's ready if the group wanted to see the video before we keep going.
We're going to do the last, Savitra, are you going to cue it to the last part that was after the landfill? But that was would have been about 2.5 minutes.
Yes, I can. I'm just going to need to take back presenter privileges, so just bear with me.
Okay. And again, we do apologize, but you never expect that technology will work. But this was our best attempt to get you at least to see our operations, since we cannot place you on a van, which that's how we viewed everything. And Mr. Beeler rode us around when I first came on board. It was eye-awakening, absolutely. So, Savitra, I think it was right at about 2 minutes, 48 seconds or so. Yeah. Go a little bit further. Okay, that was the other 2.5 minutes. Prior to coming to the county, I had no idea that the methane was collected and then sold. So you learn something. I've learned so much about this Baltimore County's operation. So, Mike, again, thanks for your support in trying to at least show our work group members who have not been to our facility what our facilities, the operation. So, Jennifer, I will turn it back over to you to go through the last segment, and I have us at 6:34.
Okay, great. And I saw a comment come in on healing from the hauler reps on the group. So we will have time. We were going to have time here, and we'll have another pause. Okay, Sam.
This is Sam's segment.
Yeah, Sam, are you? Oh, Sam, I think you're on mute. There you go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
I wanted to review how the haulers are currently compensated for everybody's reference. It's based on a system a method that was developed in 1986 to come to a residential per unit price for each residential unit within Baltimore County. So it started in 1986, and it's been increased 4 out of the past 13 years in an attempt to take into account the annual increase in cost of operations and equipment. I can assure you that the cost of a trash truck and labor and insurance and tires have increased well in excess of the compensation that has been provided in the way of cost increases as to the haulers. Counties such as Anne Arundel, Montgomery County, and Howard County, they have multi-year contracts in place with either one or a certain specified number of haulers, much less than 37. And those contracts provide specified rate escalators on an annual basis. This way, the haulers can actually plan for the business, realize return on investment on their equipment, and make the investment necessary for safer equipment and also more efficient, quite frankly. Okay, Jennifer, next slide, please. This gives you a little bit of a comparison to where Baltimore County's costs are compared to Anne Arundel, Howard, and Montgomery County. As you can see, Baltimore County's is the lowest at $101.56. In my opinion, the county receives a pretty high level of service for this price. So probably want to give that some consideration. Yard waste is handled a little differently in Montgomery County, where it's included with the recycling collection service, but still in the end, you can see how the cost for Baltimore County services compares to the other 3 counties that I mentioned. Jennifer, I think this is Harvey.
Yep, I'm ready. So this slide and the next slide have some recommendations that came from the background memo that Jennifer showed you, in that section 8 regarding county provided services through the large number of haulers. That's the first part of this. So here's a highlight of what our thinking is as a result of this review we've done so far. There needs to be a movement toward a more user-friendly, more sustainable set of collection services, more efficient and less risky with the haulers. If the large number of haulers are to be consolidated to a smaller number, it should be done in a way that transitions them into the future, the existing haulers into the future, either as a hauler or doing something else. So we've come up with the idea that a 3-year contract going forward with the current haulers should be considered. During this 3-year period, some changes to the route areas and services would be made. We're suggesting some pilots be tried for a new set of services in route areas that are at least, let's say, 5,000 households. So you can have an efficient set of services provided with the vehicle set. For private commercial collection, this is the rest of the county commercial is open market. We would suggest focusing on making the source separation requirements more stringent as well as exploring whether those services should be franchised or contracted, as is being done in some other locations around the country to enhance and increase diversion and recycling opportunities for commercial properties. Require the use of CNG, compressed natural gas as a fuel for collection and transfer vehicles would be an environmental improvement and contribute to the county's sustainability goals. Now, changing how solid waste services are financed, we think is going to be a very important aspect for the future. Changing from being within the county organization and funded mainly by property tax revenue is constraining to solid waste operations as well as to the county finances. Significant capital resources for the future will be needed, not so much for collection if it stays privately contracted for, but for other elements of the county system, be it an expansion at ESL, a new landfill somewhere, or a larger transfer fleet, or more extensive processing facilities and conversion facilities. So moving the Bureau into an enterprise fund arrangement and give it financial flexibility to raise revenues and support capital needs and operating contracting commitments. For residents and businesses, there would no longer be free services from the county. Fees for services would be paid by the generators for the specific services they receive. Even if commercial properties do not receive franchise or contract collection services, a system charge could be established to support the part of the county system that they have the benefit to have their haulers use. We included in Appendix C in the background memorandum a benchmarking case study GBB did for another client about Montgomery County, Maryland. Please look this over, paying particular attention to how Montgomery County collects revenue from all the generators to support its system. The system benefit charge used there requires state legislation for the Bureau to have this type of revenue structure. Also, the county should review its taxing authorities to more broadly support a solid waste enterprise. Next slide. Also from the background memorandum are some recommendations regarding recycling. These should be kept in mind for consideration during the 3-year transition period recommended with the current haulers, as well as for the pilots recommended. Here are some highlights. Single stream recycling continues and it's expanded for multifamily developments. Large recycling carts are provided for single family homes. Semi-automated recycling and trash collection would be provided with carts. Yard waste with no plastic bags would be a change. Now, if the county, as in the solid waste plan, suggests food waste or food scraps are added to yard waste, a special organics cart would be needed, and that would be needed to be collected on a weekly basis, year-round, and not seasonal. So that would be a big change. The rest of the yard waste could be collected either in the cart provided or containers with stickers on them that say yard waste, or in brown bags or bundles as is done currently. There would be expanded recycling service in the government, rights of ways in public schools to match what is required at the homes. Stronger promotion of recycling in commercial properties and evaluating whether commercial collection should be franchised or contracted out. And lastly, creating new permit regulations for construction and demolition permits to increase the diversion of construction and demolition materials. Next slide.
So I know that we have about 15 minutes or so left, and Mr. Lafferty asked, could we hear from the haulers who are part of our team? So I'd like to reserve some time before we go into final questions for our haulers to give some perspective on the current state of operations. Michelle and Mr. Singleton, would you all like to give some comments and reflections from your perspective?
Yeah, this is Rob Singleton. This is the first I've seen these recommendations. I would request a copy of them. It's very difficult even for myself to digest, and I'm in the industry. I do this all the time and have for the past 25 years. I think where the haulers are is that back to this whole notion of receiving 4 raises over 13 years, our costs have escalated. We're looking at minimum wage increases, that have gone up 62% since 2010. These are mandated costs that we're required to pay. We personally pay more than minimum wage, but it's a base. And, I'm familiar with what Baltimore City did and their pay structure to their employees that pick up solid waste. I totally support what the city's done. I think these people, the employees deserve, and we're marching to $15 an hour for them. I clearly think they deserve it, but right now we're not being paid enough to pay them the $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I'm looking at it. In a certain sense, I understand where the county is coming from to put the contracts out to bid. I do. And I don't personally have a problem with that. In a certain sense, if the county was forced to put it out to bid right now, I think they would end up paying a lot more money than what they're paying right now.
I agree.
Yeah, we agree with that. And even if, your current contracts were I'll say brought up to where you could pay more, there's a significant increase that the county should expect to pay you for, I'll call it fair compensation, given the services you're currently providing at the scale and efficiency or lack of that you're having to provide, given given the areas, the route areas you have, and et cetera, to allow you to buy new equipment, better equipment, pay people more, would require a big raise.
Sure. I have a pretty substantial commercial operation. Residential collection is something that we've done for a very long time. Mm-hmm. But to be honest with you, it's not a very big part of what we do. It's less than 10% of our company. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I run a fleet of approximately 90 trucks today. I'm buying trucks all the time. I understand what they cost. I understand what it costs to maintain them, and I understand what it costs to put people in them. County's just not living up to what it needs to do to sustain that. I would question the 3-year contract concept in that, typically when one buys a truck, you're committing to, a longer than 3-year period. I would question whether that's the appropriate length of time to, to give the haulers, some commitment. Those are my off-the-cuff responses, but I would very much like to get a copy of these recommendations and be able to digest them.
Can I just add one part there? Thank you so much. And these slides that you're seeing, we pulled the recommendations from that table 41 in the background memo that related to collection. So just so you know, these are both from the solid waste management plan that related to collection and the GBB team that related to collection. That's what you're seeing here. Okay, just so, and again, we're building from that in the tactical plan here going forward. So just that table 41, which starts on your page 98, printed page.
And also, before Michelle speaks, I just want to say two things for the rest of the group. Last fall, we initiated a hauler rate set. We did, and I want to thank Mr. Singleton for all of the hard work that he did with the Bureau to really look at hard costs. Because each hauler is different, you know, in terms of size and age of equipment, et cetera. But we really wanted to start from a base of how, you know, just what does it cost to do the business. When the team first told me about our costs in terms of what we pay compared to our surrounding jurisdictions. And that's why we entered into that, and that's where we came up last year to propose an increase. But given the impact of the pandemic, we were not able to move forward. GBB helped with that process. So we have that. So my other point is to say we get the feedback often about the truck. You know, how can we, the county, you know, we're looking at how can we, the county, be more supportive, even from an equipment finance kind of thing. We're looking at all kinds of things to make this better system. Now, Mr. Singleton, I'll tell you the 3-year contract proposal, again, is what was presented as a part of that matrix. That's the starting point. And we're here together, all working together to say what would be viable. So that's not a set in stone position. That's not the county's position at this point. I just want to be water for crystal clear on that. These are the recommendations that are coming forward that we need to discuss and, you know, dig into and ferret out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I know Michelle is representing our hauler community. So I'd like to make sure she has a chance to give her reflections or feedback as well.
I really don't have a whole lot to say because I feel exactly the same way Rob feels right now. This was really hard to hear, and my heart's actually beating really hard right now. So, you know, first of all, I want to say I don't run junk trucks. My trucks are pretty nice, and I take pride in maintenance and keeping them running and have backup beepers. So, but anyway, I think that what we do for the county, I think we're doing a pretty good job. Is there new innovative ways of doing things? Probably. You got to think outside the box. You know, right now I don't know what that could be, but I don't know. I just got to take all this in. I just need to take it all in.
But Michelle, again, I want to reiterate, that is not the position that we're taking. That's a recommendation that was put forward, and it's here for your input. So I just want to allay your concern. This is the starting point. Just like we worked last fall to try to see what we could do. So I don't want you to take that from the standpoint of this is what's happening. And that's one thing I told the GBB team in that matrix. These are recommendations that we need to consider. This is what the consulting team is coming forward with. What would be a viable plan forward? Okay, I don't want you all to walk away from here thinking this is what's happening. That's not what that grid is at all.
Well, you got to remember too, it's all about the buck. I mean, if we're going to have good trucks and you know, be able to provide good service, we have to have great employees, and it's all about the money, and we have to be compensated to be able to do what we need to do. So, you know.
Totally understand, and that's why we're sitting here at this table, and this is a big part of our discussion, what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think we exercised good faith last year to try to move forward on that with the rate study.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I guess that's about all I have to say right now.
Okay. Mr. Singleton?
I have a question for Izzy, if you can hear me. We participated in this work group. I take it on good faith that the county had intended to fund the system at a greater level than they're currently funding it, and then COVID hit. And I received a call from Johnny O, and he said, I'm going to propose a 2% increase to you. It's not what we had hoped to do, but in view of COVID, we are going to scale back and offer you 2%. And then the council decided that the haulers wouldn't get anything, and so we didn't get a raise. And I'm just curious, did the county council know that we haven't received, or we have only received 4 increases in 13 years? And did the council know that we haven't received a yard waste increase in 15 years?
Thank you, Mr. Singleton. Appreciate the question. Thinking back to when we were reviewing the budget, I knew that I can say for myself, and I can't speak for the other council members, I knew that we were paying a low rate of compensation overall. The specifics you just identified, I can't say that there was a case made for it, but I can't remember the exact specifics that you just cited. But just conceptually, we were aware that we were paying a very, I would say, low ball rate for solid waste disposal. So during that time, we were in an environment where COVID had just began. We didn't know exactly what we were in for, but what we did know is that our revenues would be significantly lower than what we had projected just several months earlier when the budget was being formulated and submitted to the council. So we had to make some really tough decisions. We had to look at what was already appropriated in fiscal 2020, which was the year that we were in, and now we're in fiscal 2021. And we had to look at what we were projecting past July 1. And so I think, if my numbers are correct, and I know Ms. Rogers or Savitra will steer me to the correct numbers, but I think all in all, we had to find $130 million over that 2-year period, and I think 70 came out of, I can't remember if 60 million came out of fiscal 20, which was pre-July 1, and then 70 million of what was proposed came out of fiscal 2021. And it's all because we had no idea what our revenues would be coming in. Except that we knew that they would be extremely low because our businesses weren't going to be at 100%, and as we know now, many are not in business anymore, and many are performing very weakly. We didn't know how many defaults we'd have on taxes, what our tax revenue would be. We didn't know how much help we would get from the federal government. Or state government for that matter. And so there was such a big unknown that at that particular time, it was a decision the council made, and not an easy one, to pause that for the moment until we had better clarity on what the fiscal impacts of COVID-19 would be.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Singleton, let me say this, having had to be a part of those difficult decisions, this is true. We we agonized over this particular the cut. And one of the things we turned right around when we found that we could use some CARES Act monies and cobble together some general funds, we did the enhanced compensation that we were able to give you all in terms of the hazard pay. We were trying to do whatever we could to try to fill some of that gap. And as we shared in I know a letter that went out under my signature, that we made a commitment to come back to the table this year to work on how we could move forward, because we do, and I believe the council has the commitment to work with us on that. We do understand we need to, look at the compensation. Absolutely. And this is the first step of that. That's why you note that hauler compensation was one of the first topics.
And I can be very sympathetic to the county's position, but from the hauler standpoint, we're looking at a scenario where we've been underpaid now for quite some time. So it's a kind of, while we understand COVID and we understand the budgetary pressures that it's putting the county under, we still have businesses to run, and we're providing the service that the county wants, but we're not being funded at a level that is sustainable.
Yes, sir. Absolutely recognize it. And I shared when I came to meet with you all last year, which was also Halloween. It was. And I brought my magic wand with me. You'll remember, that was my little way of joking. But I said, if I had a magic wand to make it, and it would make it all better, by golly, I would. But remember, we inherited something that has been, problematic for a number of years. And I've heard all of the stories about, the negotiations or, the bottom line from my predecessor. And that's why we came to the table, really looking to dialogue and see how we could fix this, because we know it needs to be fixed. Unfortunately, COVID hit us and stopped us from taking that first step toward fixing it.
Mr. Singleton, could I just add another comment?
Sure.
So there is definitely a mismatch between what we've been doing over the last 70 years, because if the way we do trash removal, for better or for worse, is based on kind of what we were doing in 1949, and we rezone the county once every 4 years, the dynamics of what the county is and how it's grown has changed dramatically. And I don't think that we as a county have, we haven't addressed this component of nuts and bolts of government, of picking up trash and disposing of it properly in a way that meets 21st century needs, that meets what what your expenditures are, what the expenditures are of the people that work for you. And I think that's one of the reasons, from what I'm hearing this evening, that we got to this place of, we need to compensate people that do county work. We need to compensate them appropriately. And I understand from you and Ms. Grace that's not happening. And I think I know how we got here, and I've had discussions with Ms. Rogers about this. And we do need to get to a better place on this, on this very important piece of county government and the things that a county does, like pick up trash and dispose of it in a environmentally sound way.
And Robert and Michelle, you have my solid commitment, as I shared with you all when I met with you all for the first time, solid commitment to work on this with you all, but none of us could have predicted the pandemic. And this is the first step to really trying to return to the work we started last fall. And I hope that you will have faith, good faith. I think the work that will come out of this work group will give us even more, background and give us the information that we need to even further justify what we need to do. And that's why I'm glad Councilmember Patoka is here to hear firsthand, to really understand the operations in terms of solid waste.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And can I just say one thing real fast? When the pandemic hit, the trash quadrupled, and our guys were out there working 9-10-hour days. And I just want everybody to realize what a great job we did.
You did.
You did not see our county on the news. So I think, we deserve a big pat on the back for that.
Yes, you do.
Very few overall complaints in the system.
Yes. So I think there's something to be said for that.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise.
We kept the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Thank you very much.
And that's why it was important to us that you all be on this work group so that your perspective on all of this to be heard. So I just want to make sure that you recognize we're getting information in, but the final decisions and disposition on things will be with your input.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing on that grid that is cut in stone.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Okay. Stacy, in terms of the chat, we are going to get the transcripts of this and we can respond to the group with the meeting notes, right, on some of the questions.
Yes, absolutely. We are able to capture everything in chat. That's what said. If people have questions that we don't get to tonight, if they're in there, we will address anything that's in there in the chat.
Yep.
That's a good way to collect it.
Okay. We have just a few. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are moving, again, I know we're putting a lot of information in front of you. I recognize this is like, even for people who are familiar with the topics and think about it every day, it's a lot. We're moving from where we ended the background memo with our observations, building from the solid waste management plan plus our own, into thinking about the tactical, where we're headed with the tactical plan. I'm going to turn it back here to Sam to talk us through some underlying concepts for consideration instead of by topic, now looking at by sector. Okay, Sam?
Yes, as we move forward with developing the tactical plan, some concepts for consideration. They're not set in stone, or maybe establish a same-day collection system. Right now, as Harvey pointed out, a resident has to put their trash out on one day, recycling out on another day, and then yard waste on another day every other week. That can be a little bit confusing sometimes for the residents, and it might be simpler. It's just something to consider. Phase out the current approach with 51 service areas. Try to get to something that's more consolidated in a fair way. Provide the current haulers with some security with a 3-year contract. That was the idea behind it, and to keep the system functioning. Maybe try some pilot programs out for new combinations of services in certain areas that make sense. Also, you want to give some serious thought to how you're going to procure and implement new services down the road if you move to an RFP or franchise basis. Those things take time to plan and think through. Some of the topics that are related as you go through the considerations. Do you need to charge for services so that a resident actually knows what it costs for the services they receive? Do you want to add food waste scrap to try to divert additional volume from the waste stream? Do you want to add bulky waste collection services with a possible repurposing of some of the materials that are collected? Carts for recycling, you probably should definitely give that some serious consideration in standardization. That would allow some automation throughout the system. You would probably need special carts for yard waste and food scrap waste, depending on how it is managed. You can also have yard waste in just brown bags and bundles rather than the plastic bags. The plastic bags cause some problems with processing at the composting facility. Or you can use yard waste labels for customers' carts and cans to use, just so that they know what's actually supposed to be in them. Next slide, please.
Before you go, can you go back for 1 second?
Sure, Stacy.
I want to focus on what it says, underlying concepts for consideration, the word consideration being the operative word here. This is not what's happening. Everybody clear on that? These are things that GBB is laid out before us that we have to consider, and everybody's voice will be heard.
And just to reiterate or kind of review a few things, the multifamily, I saw a question from Willie Good show up there, I think pertained to multifamily. They're currently considered part of the residential units in Baltimore County. So a large apartment complex that's considered to be a residential unit. Anne Arundel, Howard, and Montgomery County, they exclude most apartments and multi-unit residents from residential collection service. They're usually considered to be commercial services. Church, county properties, they're currently serviced by the county, trucks and employees, approximately 40 locations. Do you want to continue to do that down the road, or is this something you might wish to change? Commercial businesses in Baltimore County are serviced by private haulers. Most of the waste is collected, the commercial waste through containerized systems, excuse me. And the commercial waste is generally delivered to the Baltimore County transfer stations into the system. So just a few things that look reviewed on the current system.
And Sam, a question for you on the Anne Arundel, Howard, and Montgomery in terms of apartment and multi-use unit residents. They charge. Does the government system charge for those, or do those multi-family family residents have to secure their own commercial trash hauling? How do they handle that?
Stacy, to the best of my knowledge, they're considered to be commercial services, and the apartment building would contract with a private hauler to pick up that waste, usually in a containerized fashion.
Okay, and that is the cost that those entities incur. Owners, the property owners incur that. But right now, Baltimore County, we cover that through county.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. And that is not the norm that you all see elsewhere.
It's not what I have seen in 30 years of trash, being in the trash business now. And it's not in Anne Arundel, Howard, or Montgomery
County. For county properties, Stacy, oftentimes a county will, one of two choices, have its own equipment that collects it, or they'll put it out together as a contract service, putting all their properties together under one commercial contract bid, rather than including it with residential services.
Right. So
that's often how counties, deal with their own buildings.
Right, but I'm speaking more. My interest is how these multi-unit residential.
There's usually a cutoff for residential property. Say 3 or less units, 5 or less units is considered residential. Anything over that is considered commercial. And, homeowner associations or, communities may be separate as well from the residential services if they procure their services separately through an HOA. So those are some other possibilities.
Okay. So can we tag that one, especially for further cost analysis on how we do it now and how other jurisdictions do it? Because that seems to me a source of, it has to be done, and then there's a cost associated with it.
Right. And that's covered in the benchmark review, by the way.
Yeah, which is, we have a section 7 in the background memo covers the best practices in benchmarking review.
Okay. And I know, colleagues, we are over time, but I just want to say to you, this is such a complex topic, this particular topic. That's why I wanted to, start out and get this one on the table for thinking. And so I thank you for bearing with us. But if there are any other major questions, can we move forward to talk about the other quick things and try to wrap up for tonight, because I want to be mindful of your time.
Yeah, and I saw a number of questions about the PowerPoint. We are going to share the PowerPoint slides up on the work group.
I've addressed some of those, Jennifer.
Yeah.
That would send out.
Yeah. And I would just say we have some additional possible tactical approach with timeline, and then I'll just go to the next steps here to say we're looking for the work group questions coming before your next meeting on the background memo, and we will take the questions that came tonight also and include that. But we have an email here, the authority at Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal and nmwda.org. We're asking all the questions to go to that email. There will be a dedicated email to this group coming also through connected to your website page. But for this next piece of before your next meeting, sending questions on the background memo. And then we're gearing then for the second meeting, which is December 3rd, also an evening meeting, focusing on county system strengths and weaknesses. We will send the preparation materials that Tuesday the 1st, including the notes from this meeting and the second meeting agenda. So you have that in advance. And I know we have Thanksgiving holiday in between. And again, I really appreciate people's attention to this. That's our schedule ahead for the topics. And thank you so much. The only other item I saw a chat question saying, are we going to actually cover the survey? We're not covering the survey. And if it's okay with the group, I would say we can, let me stop sharing this. We can wait on this item. It's our plan to present to you what the draft questions are for the online survey at the next meeting. This discussion point was essentially just to tell you there is an online public survey. As part of this project, we had a number of meetings already on this. We're advancing the plan, and you will see that draft questions at the next meeting. Similar to you, in this group, the goal is to get feedback on possible options, that are relevant to residences and businesses in the county that we can bring to you in your February meeting, one of your February meetings before we are done with the tactical plan. So that is that point on the agenda, just to say that survey is coming. Otherwise, we're really at the end. I didn't have any other items.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. And colleagues, thank you also for bearing with us and giving a little more of your time. As Jennifer said, we're going to have a full discussion about the survey for the December 3rd meeting. Your input in terms of the questions, again, here's where the starting point is, looking at the questions, hearing from our consultants as to what they've seen elsewhere in terms of the survey, and then talking to you about the strategy for getting responses.
Right.
So I just want you to know that we put a lot of thought in it, but we did not come with all the answers. That's why we have all of you, and we take to heart your input. So thanks again. The email address we will send out, Leslie will send out a follow-up note, so you will have that email address. We will be posting documents from this meeting on the website as soon as possible. And then we're not going to post the briefing document yet until we get all of the input and your questions. Then that will ultimately be posted as well. But you have it. If you have questions, we encourage you to send your responses and questions. Thank you so very much. And we look forward. Happy Thanksgiving to the work group members we won't be talking to. Our planning team, I know we have a meeting next week, so we'll follow up. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Council Member Patoka.
My pleasure. Good meeting. Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone.
Be safe, everyone.
Be safe. Thanks, Harvey.
Thank you. Good night.